and I do kind of want to separate it into like the first 75% of this game and the final 25% because that's kind of where things really flipped. Rutgers was not able to make any of their shots in the first 30 minutes of this game, and that shouldn't come as a surprise. Rutgers, I think, I was looking this up before the game. Rutgers before this game had 8 players with 15 plus 3-point attempts on the season. You want to guess how many of those guys shot above 30% from three?
Not many. Not many at
Not
all.
many. One. Andre Hyatt was the only player with 15 plus attempts from three on Rutgers' team that made more than 30%. And 30% is like the bottom of what's acceptable if you're going to be a high volume shooter. So we have basically all our guys shooting terribly from three. And it continued today. Rutgers went 2 of 13 from three on the game. They only have one first half three in the last 3 games combined. And that was Derek Simpson hitting that three with I think like 1 minute and 50 seconds left in the first half of this game. Um, but I thought Jeremiah Williams brought immediate kind of alpha energy to this game. You know, the first offensive possession for Rutgers, he drove to the hoop, got the foul, made both free throws. He was kind of taking shots that were wide open, even if he wasn't making them. But it kind of gave, I think, the rest of the guys the confidence to just kind of go after it. I thought he was just kind of all over the place on defense. He was just 100% effort, you know, diving on the floor to try and create steal opportunities. I thought he did a really good job of cutting down the passing lanes, and you saw that late in the game where Rutgers just kept producing turnover after turnover late in the game. I think it's partially because they kind of figured out the, the the true best starting five for this team late in the game, and I do think that bodes well moving forward. But what are some of the other things early in the game that you saw that you were just kind of like, what the hell are we even doing? Because that was 75% of the game was what the hell are we doing?
I don't even know where to start. Gavin was taking a couple questionable shots. I know, like you said, we said it pre-pod, but talking now, you mentioned it. That's like we told him to shoot and just keep shooting until you figure out your rhythm. Maybe not that much because you're taking
Yeah,
some stupid stuff now. Um,
yeah,
Going back
like
to the
that one that
first.
comes to mind immediately was it was out of an inbounds pass. They clearly were designing a play to get Gavin the ball in the corner,
Mhm.
but he catches the ball and is falling away out of bounds and takes this fadeaway three from the corner, and it doesn't even come close. And it's one of those shots that like, yeah, you should. The play is designed for you, but it doesn't mean to take it no matter what. You know what I mean? You still
Mhm.
have to be smart about how good or bad of a shot opportunity it is, and he's still learning that, and I still want him to shoot, but like you said, that was not a good shot.
Yeah, that's for starters. There's zero bench. They're like even when you switch one of the starters to the bench and Andre Hyatt, he still can't score. The
Yep.
first half he went 0 of 3. Gavin went 0 of 3. Noah just didn't even take a shot in his 4 minutes. Austin Williams went 0 of 2. That's 0 of 8. Jeez, my math is bad. That is 0 of 8 just to go in the first half, and that's just eight shots right there, and you're only taking 31, so your percentage is you're going to take a dip. Um, I was intrigued to see Emmanuel Ogbo out there over Wolfolk, and especially in the first half, you could tell like he definitely is a very raw player. We've been pretty adamant about that on the podcast, on the message boards. I think it's weird because people are asking us, and what I shouldn't say asking us. I saw it in the Discord during the game. People are asking if he's taken Wolfolk's spot. I don't know if I'd say that specifically. I think it's more so Pike just trying anything and everything to try to get this team to bounce back. Also, even like I know Mawad had a really good first half, but when he takes like an 18, 17 footer, it still makes me cringe because I'm like, oh my God, it's like the worst shot in basketball. What are you doing? Like, stop taking the 18 footers. We said
Yep.
it in our last pod. They took what, like 6 or 7 last game against Penn State, and they missed 6 or 7 of them. So it's like, it's just cringy to watch those mid range. Not even a mid range. It's a deep mid range. It's a deep two. It's the worst shot in basketball percentage wise to take. And yeah, the first half was just a lot of the same for the most part that we've seen over the past couple weeks for Rutgers. It was just a struggling offense and defense. I shouldn't even say because they still gave up what 50 something percent from the field to Michigan in the first half. 56%. Let them shoot 46% from three. Like It was just a typical like what we've seen from Rutgers all season long in the first half, and just a beautiful switch up in the second.
Yeah, so Michigan shot 6 of 13 from three, and that's slightly under 50% in the first half. Second half, they shot 1 of 11, tweeted out at halftime. Like that just felt
Mm-hmm.
unsustainable, just given what Michigan has shown this year. Um, but yeah, Michigan was just kind of hitting everything. They're also a team that doesn't have the best shot selection. Like we've talked about some of the better offensive teams, like Purdue, I think took like 4 mid-range shots against us.
Mm-hmm.
Illinois took like 6 or something like that. It was in the single digits. Michigan took 18 mid-range shots against us and went 7 for 18. Rutgers, they went 7 for gulp, 25 from the mid-range. They're still taking way too many of those.
Wait.
In the first half, they just, there was opportunity after opportunity of shots at the rim they weren't hitting. At the rim, they went 18 for 29. But in the second half, they really did clean that up. But we were still smoking layups left and right.
I don't get it. I mean, I do it in
I
men's leagues. That's different. When you're
it
playing D1
is,
basketball, it's you should be hitting them.
and there's something to be said. Like some of this is coaching. I don't
Yeah.
like the broadcast did a good job of saying this, but like Pike can't put the ball in the hoop for these guys making layups or not. Like that at some point you can't blame the coach for a guy missing a wide open layup. Like
Mm-hmm.
I I, I don't really know why they continue to miss these. It seems like it should kind of, revert back to the mean at some point, but maybe they're just not good at hitting these collectively as a team. Um, I as impressive as Jeremiah Williams was this game for a guy that we'd heard really good things about, like we'd been hearing basically all off season and
Best
throughout
guard.
the season that he's the best player on the team. And I think he went out and played like the best player on the team tonight,
Mm-hmm.
even if his stats don't really jump out at you like best player on the team kind of numbers. When you look at, especially like a stat sheet that a guy like, Derek Simpson had tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought Jeremiah Williams just really was a tone setter. And then you had a guy like Emmanuel Ogbol, who we also haven't seen. I thought he just looked totally outmatched tonight on both sides of the floor. He played 8 minutes, but it was. I don't have the plus minus numbers in front of me, but I don't think he made like one positive.
-4.
Yeah, it just
So.
felt like every time either he was getting the ball or he was going up for a rebound or the defender or he was defending a guy. It just seemed like they were getting really good shot opportunities out there. He had one play where he just kind of like fell down trying to defend Terrace Reed. Maybe that's a little bit of rust, but I do not feel good about Emmanuel Ogbol at this point. Rutgers as a team only had 5 bench points. They did switch up the starting lineup. So the starting lineup tonight was Jeremiah Williams, Derek Simpson, Michael Davis, Cliff O'Maruri, and Mwat Mag. Andre Hyatt got reverted to the bench. He had 4 points. Emmanuel Ogbol had 1. That was the only people who scored off the bench. I don't think they had a single bench point in the first half. And I think that's part of the reason why we were able to have success in the second half, because Pike kind of tightened up that lineup and that rotation down to like 6 or 7 guys, and that's all they played for the most of the second half. Is there anything else through like the first 30 minutes that you noticed that you kind of want to hit on before we go to like the good part of this game?
Not really. It's just it was a typical. Oh, we didn't really mention. You put it in the chat, and I thought it was actually going to happen at one point. What was it? 3 games in a row where they haven't hit a first half 3.
Yeah. Yep.
And then this would have been 4 if they didn't get that Derek Simpson 3 that what was like a minute left.
Well, this would have been 3. This
this would have
was
been 3. Okay.
Yeah.
That's just the 3-point shooting is abysmal. It's I don't even know how you fix that. You just either have it or you don't, and this team just doesn't. But I've seen Andre Hyatt like nail like 15 in a row. I've seen Gavin Griffiths hit like 20 plus in a row. Like it doesn't make sense to me. They don't set up plays for Gavin, and this is what you get on offense. You don't set up plays for anyone really, and this is what you get on offense. I should say. You get Mwat Mag taking 18 footers and doing his thing. And don't get me wrong, he balled out in the first half. I thought he had a great first half. I thought Jeremiah had a great first half. The rest, I was like, what the hell? And the second half hit.
If you look at the numbers for the first half, I think Mwat had, I tweeted it out. So Mwat hit 4 of 6 shots. Mm-hmm. The rest of the team in the first half shot 4 for 18. So Mwat shot 67%. The rest of the team shot 25% roughly.
Yeah,
Um,
that's about
yeah,
their average.
actually less than that. So they shot about like 22%.
Jeez,
You just
that's
you got to be better than that, and they found a way to get to be better than that in the second half.
mhm.
So let's talk the positives now because we kind of this was a huge win. So let's
No, yeah,
let's kind of remember that as well. Um, Rutgers went on in the final 12 minutes and 43 seconds. They went on a 30-8 run. Now, this just felt like a totally different team in those last 12 minutes. And I
yeah,
think it's in large part because they just kind of like figured out like what it's like to play with Jeremiah in
yeah,
this
he's good.
lineup. And he's good. They a lot of those passing lanes late in the game that might have been open with Noah Fernandez and Michael Davis out there
Mhm,
were closed off because you had two really lengthy wings out there in Jeremiah Williams and in Watt Mag, and they
mhm.
just kind of closed off, and they were able to create so many points off of turnovers because they went immediately from creating the turnover into transition, which is kind of what we thought would happen all season,
Yeah,
but we haven't really seen it for whatever reason. But this last 12 minutes of this game showed the potential of this team throughout the season, where you're creating turnovers with suffocating defense, and then you're immediately throwing the ball down the court and getting opportunities to score. And for whatever reason, they were making their layups in the last 12 minutes. Like, I don't have the numbers in front of me,
mhm.
but they were finishing at the rim at a pretty high clip, which they haven't really done all year. So you just got to hope that maybe this is the magic elixir to get this team pointed in the right direction. I think the dreams of a tournament bid are kind of over unless you win the
Oh
Big
yeah,
Ten
no,
tournament at this
it's.
point.
I'll tell you now, it's
But
out.
it's out. I do still think that they have a good shot at the NIT though. If they finish the rest of the season above 500, I think it's there for the taking.
So here's where it gets weird. Like I shouldn't even say it gets weird. It's just it's honestly truthful. They are going into this game ranked as the worst team in the Big Ten according to the net, and I believe KenPom as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this was what a quad two game, only because it was away, which is fine. It's just going to be. This is not a good Michigan team whatsoever. They
No,
are they
nope.
are bad, and it took a very significant second half comeback. And I don't want to sound like Mr. Negative. I'm not going to shit on a win or anything like that. But you kind of got to temper expectations. I feel like the NIT is possible. It is possible.
Yep.
You do have Michigan again on the schedule at home. Huge. Ohio State kind of stinks. Minnesota, Northwest. Minnesota just beat Northwestern or did they lose? I forget. I wasn't watching,
Minnesota beat
obviously.
Northwestern today.
Yeah, so the Big Ten is just weird. It's not a good league this year. There's probably 6 teams that are going to make the tournament,
This is probably a six bid league this year.
and I think only 2 of them even have a shot of making it to the second round. And I don't even know if Purdue has a shot of making it to the second round because those 16 seeds are pesky now because it went from never upsetting them to now potentially upsetting them. But I just don't know if between Wisconsin, Northwestern, Purdue again, Nebraska, Wisconsin again, Ohio State's weird too because they technically did just lose to them away, but a home game could be different. It's gonna be close. It's gonna be very close. I think when it comes all said and done. I think they have a shot at the NIT, but this was a bad Michigan team. They did get the win, and it's a good win. It's a great comeback, and you got some momentum going into Tuesday's matchup down in Xfinity Center in College Park. But you got to snag that one. You got to win the games you're supposed to win, and you can get away with a couple losses, but you can't get away with a lot of them. So it's kind of make or break time if you want to make that NIT. And I think an NIT obviously would be huge. It would help them development wise, especially the young guys. Get them another game, maybe 2 or 3 even. I don't think they win the NIT personally, but
Yeah.
who knows? You can't ever count them out, I guess.
Yeah. No, I mean, just getting some postseason experience would be big for this team moving forward because
Yeah,
I do think we're going to see a pretty huge amount of turnover next year for relative turnover for Pike's, you know,
standards,
regular amount anyway. Um, I think it's so important that Jeremiah Williams, we don't win this game without Jeremiah Williams, in my opinion.
100%.
And this kind of changes the trajectory of the season because you know Rutgers was in a bit of a free fall. That loss against Penn State was just one of those all-time bad performances for Rutgers.
Yeah,
They look totally lifeless. Penn State, obviously, they had another big win today at Assembly Hall. They beat Indiana by double digits on the road. So
saw that.
Penn State's a good. They're not like a tournament team, but they're a good team. They're a team that puts up a fight. So Rutgers shouldn't feel like they just lost to a a quad four team at home, but they really needed something to kind of spark them to get this season turned around so you can at least like go out on a positive note or a relative
Hmm.
positive note.
Yeah.
So winning
No.
that injunction, that temporary restraining order to get Jeremiah Williams eligible immediately for this game was huge because if he sits out till the 18th, which is I think what he was originally supposed to, Rutgers probably
Hmm.
loses the next few games, and then the season truly is over, where it's just you're playing for nothing at that point. Rutgers still has something to play for with 10 games left in its season around. Maybe
Hmm.
that's yeah, so 10 games left. So there's still something to play for now because you're playing for seeding in the Big Ten tournament. You're trying to get into the Big Ten tournament because I think currently they're out if the tournament started today.
Well, that
Um,
was the old rules. That's not for this year, I don't think.
that's right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Um,
Or that's for this year,
but
I
it,
should say. It's not for or whatever. You know what I mean? It's not next year's the new rules.
yeah, point being is they actually feel like they're alive again. Like there's something that positive can come out of the season, whereas you lose today, you probably just pack it in, or at least maybe you don't pack it in, but the
Hmm.
team basically packs it in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
mean they have a shot to make some noise. I think Jeremiah Williams definitely helps this team. There's no question about it. He's the best guard out there, and I think you saw it today. The guy hasn't played since February 2022. He was clearly
yep, yep,
tired, and it goes to show you how much the staff knows how good he is for the sole fact that this man was gassed, took a 10-second
yeah,
break, and they're like, "Oh, TV timeout. Oh, dude, go back in, go in, go back in, do it again." Gets gassed again, falls on the court in the and I shouldn't say an and one because he missed the layup, but he should have hit that. I'm a little disappointed he
yeah,
didn't hit
yeah.
that
That
because that
was
was a
really
clear
close.
lane. Like he should have had that. But regardless, misses the layup, falls on the ground, takes the free throws, gets subbed out. I'm shit you not. 15 seconds, next dead ball, he's back in again. And I'm like, dude, this
Yeah.
man is gassed. Like, what are we doing? Like,
Mm-hmm.
just throwing him out there again? Like, you don't trust your guards that much? I guess so. And it makes sense because they've struggled all year long. So this is just, it goes to show you Jeremiah Williams is that good of a player. And then you show him on the defensive end as well. He doesn't, he, I want to, don't want to compare him to Caleb McConnell because he's not that good defensively, but he's pretty damn good and he's not like stuffing the stat sheet. And he's had like early Caleb McConnell games where, or this was like an early Caleb McConnell game where you're not getting crazy amount of stats, you're not doing steals, you're not getting blocks, but you see him out there, and whether he's just on ball defending, boxing someone out, he does all the nitty gritty stuff that you need from that wing position. And I don't see a reason why this is not a certified starter going forward, if not your best player going forward.
Yeah. I'm looking at the stats now. The bench shooting. So the bench shot 2 for 15, which is 13%. Obviously not good,
Mm-hmm.
but the team overall shot 40%. So if you look at just the starters numbers, Rutgers starters shot almost 50% from the field today. They were 25 of 52, so they shot 48%,
Yeah.
which has to be the highest on the season for the starting lineup, um, at least against high major opponents. Um, did you notice how much easier those buckets looked in the second half, in the late second half, especially where it was just kind of like, I don't know if they just decided not to rush it anymore, or if they just were able to like create this offensive
Mm-hmm.
symmetry where they're getting that extra pass. They just like they had a lot of easy looks late in the game, and they were doing really well with that high pick and roll with Derek Simpson leading it. Like
Yeah.
I don't know why it seems like it's kind of like a desert mirage where like a few games a season that just opens up the Rutgers offense to look competent,
Mm-hmm.
and then it goes away. Like last year, I
Yeah.
think immediately to the Penn State game where we're down huge, and then it's
That
just Point
crazy
Derek,
run.
and he's just
Yeah.
like every single play goes through him, and it seems like that's the only way he can be successful on this team. If he is very ball dominant, he's good, but if he's just kind of playing as a secondary role, I don't know why, but maybe he can't get into the rhythm of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's just he doesn't feel confident because he's not getting the ball. But when he's just playing like catch and shoot, he is terrible. But when he is like creating, kicking, and slashing, when he's able to like
Yeah.
use that high pick and roll to get a they're playing drop coverage to
Mm-hmm.
get the ball or to take that mid range shot. I don't know why when he has the ball in his hands for more than half a possession, it seems like things go well, but when he doesn't, it doesn't. It just doesn't make a ton of sense.
No, he's an interesting player. I think you see glimpses, like you said, of how good he could be, but it goes back to what we said on our previous podcast. He might be the most inconsistent player on the team. You see great Derek, bad Derek. You saw both today, actually.
Yep.
And you've seen it all season long. You see glimpses where he hits that half court shot at the buzzer at halftime, proceeds to finish the game what 3 of 13 or something like that. It's hit or miss. Like it's just hard to tell which Derek you're gonna get, and not just per game. We're talking per half. Because going into this game, he was what one of the worst effective field goal percentages in college basketball since 2008.
Yep.
I don't know if that's gonna.
Yeah, you're
All right,
good.
yeah, I'm good. Okay, cool. Yeah, dog just ran in the computer, so that happened.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, it's just insane. Like I don't I don't know what Derek I'm gonna get every single night of the week, and it is what it is.
Yeah. No, it's maybe we finally got that puzzle piece figured out. I know that something we had talked about is like Jeremiah hasn't been playing with this team, but he's been practicing. And when you have a guy who in practice is so clearly the leader or so clearly like the best player on the team and the guy that you kind of like rely on for that energy, and then you go to a game and you don't have him, like it creates this kind of like tension where it's like you don't have what you're used to, because the majority of the time these guys are on the court together, it's in practice. So if you think like if 90% of the time you're playing with your teammates, it's not in games, then when you get to a game and that guy's not there, it's really tough to kind of overcome that and kind of figure that situation out. Now that he's finally able to be on the court, I feel like maybe the cohesion's there. Maybe the jigsaw puzzle finally has that corner piece that we've been missing from the box. I don't know. I just feel like there is something there now that might have been missing, that we kind of had like it was like on the tip of our tongue. It's like I don't know exactly what this recipe is missing, but it's missing something. And it turns out maybe it's just Jeremiah Williams.
Yeah, I'm not sure what. It's interesting because like he didn't practice with. I mean, he practiced with the team, but he wasn't practicing with the starters clearly because it's season. Like you're in mid season, you
Yeah.
can't afford to have a non-starter with the starters. Like so, I think the more he gets out there, I'm sure this past week when they kind of figured out they were going to file this junction and all that, they probably started shifting him towards the starters and
Yep.
saying like, hey, like we're going to figure this out. We're going to get you eligible for Saturday. Like all right, go out there, go play with Derek, go run with the ones. Yeah, Andre, you go to the twos. And Andre's probably like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, no, I think the more he plays with these guys, the more he'll get comfortable. And this is just game one. Like he hasn't played since February 2022. That's
Yeah.
2 years of not
Yeah.
playing an organized basketball game. And plus, like we said with Mawat, like when Mawat came back, you kind of get a little nervous on your first day back, especially from a
Yep.
guy who I believe tore his Achilles, correct?
Yep. He popped his Achilles.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's got to be a little nerve wracking the first time you step back on the court and you're like, oh shit, here we go again.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
yeah. So, and yeah, I mean, that's it. Like he's going to be a really good player, and I'm very excited to see what they can do now with him because not only is he just playing defense, he's also rebounding, which is beautiful.
Yes.
A
Yep.
guy that can rebound. Like,
Yeah. Rutgers was +8 on the rebounding today. They had 40 rebounds. Michigan had 32.
mhm.
Um, 4 of the 5 starters were in double-digit scoring.
Yeah.
Look at the free throws. They shot 13 of 17. We've really struggled with free throws the last handful of games. Finally
Years.
got that back figured out. I mean, if this team can have a floor of like 30% shooting from three, we're a dangerous team. But until you can get there, it's just too easy to guard Rutgers right now because you just you can condense the half court so much by just letting these guys shoot,
Hmm.
that especially when you're playing with a small lineup, like you don't respect them shooting, and also you don't really need to give them that much space because you can, in the Big Ten especially, you can condense that so much by just kind of having a 6'8" wing kind of go out to defend
Yeah.
a Jermichael Davis or a Noah Fernandez late in the shot attempt and still get
Hmm.
some good pressure on the guy. So it's, I don't know. I think I think the last missing piece of this team, honestly, is getting Gavin. 100% right. Like if we could even
Yeah,
start Gavin out, I know we've said this time and time again, as just like how we used Oscar last year as the guy who just kind of hangs in the corner
just
and
shit
cuts,
there.
like because he could just be so good because he's also an underrated slasher.
Hmm.
Like he does get, I know he had like a couple of shots get blocked today, but he gets to the rim with a lot more ease than you'd expect for a guy who looks like Gavin Griffiths.
Yeah,
Um,
you've seen it in his highlight tape,
yep,
high school highlight tape, I should say.
yep. So I'm positive going into this last 10 games that Rutgers can kind of make something out of the season. Like maybe, you were talking about what's left on the schedule. Maybe maybe you finish above 500 on the rest of the schedule. They still have to play Purdue, still have to play
Hmm.
Wisconsin twice. You still got to play Nebraska. Um, but you do have some easier games. You get Maryland, like you said, you get Michigan, you get Maryland twice, you get Michigan, you get
That's huge.
Minnesota, you get Ohio State, you get Northwestern. There are winnable games on there, um, but just to kind of have some juice the second, the last third of the season, I think will do wonders leading into the following season. Because I do think, unfortunately, and it's partially, you know, us talking about it and a lot of media members talking about it, like
Hmm.
we talked a lot about next season, even before this season even started. That has
Look
to,
ahead.
leak into the players' minds. It's kind of like, with a forgotten season in a lot of ways. And,
Yeah,
that happens. Like you're getting potentially two
number
top five
two and
NBA players on your
three.
team. Yeah, number two
Yeah,
and three players in the country.
can't
You're
make
going to
that.
get excited about it. You're going to talk about it, especially,
Yeah,
when you got nothing else to talk about in the offseason. That's going to happen. And I do think maybe, you know, Pike talks a lot about, wanting these guys to get rid of their phones and being too plugged in. Like, you start listening to that kind of stuff and maybe the fire isn't there. Whereas in previous seasons, everything was about that season. We've been in the NCAA hunt for 5 straight years, and this year was the first one where it was kind of like, well, we both thought that they were potentially a tournament team, but
yeah,
they did lose a lot this offseason. Maybe if they had Cam Spencer, who's balling out still, maybe they had
yeah.
Paul, given his familiarity with Pike's system, and you got a guy like Dongo who came in and would
Hmm.
be an impact player. Maybe you do make the tournament this year. But without those three guys, it was tough sledding, especially trying to cobble together guys in the portal in June and July and August. Like that
Jeez.
is, it's picked over for a reason.
Yeah, I'm looking at this now. Like, if you want to make this NIT, how many wins do you think you have to get? Because you're at 11 right now, I think. Yeah,
You probably need, there's 10 left.
11. Yeah.
You probably need 16 or 17 wins. So you got to go 5-5, 6-4 the rest of the year.
And I mean, I'm looking at it like you said: Maryland, Minnesota, Maryland, Michigan, Ohio State. You probably have to win those five, at least win those five, and then go sneak one from either Northwestern or Nebraska. I don't think you're going to sneak one
Yep.
against Wisconsin, and Purdue's Purdue. At the end of the day, I know they fought them tough at home. Away is a totally different atmosphere. Mackey Arena is hell on earth.
Yeah. And we did win there last year, but,
Yeah, I know
and
it's
Pike does play Purdue well historically, but,
different team.
they have so much more firepower than us this year. We are very outmatched. And, we made it an ugly game against
Hmm.
them at home. Even with Jeremiah Williams back, I don't see us even coming close to beating them. They have way too much
Yeah,
firepower.
yeah. No, they're something else. I mean, we'll see. I mean, the rack is a different atmosphere too, and the nice thing is you get Wisconsin there, you get Northwestern there, Maryland and Michigan. You gotta snag those two 100%. You probably have to
Yep.
sweep Maryland, and you get Ohio State to end the season there. I think the last couple of years they've ended the season away, so it's a nice little tidbit. But yeah,
This
I
has to
mean that.
be the toughest schedule in the Big Ten too. If because every year you only get, each team plays a certain amount of teams twice. I don't know how many it is. I think it's 4 or 5. You play twice, right?
Yeah, it is number 20 according to the net. 20th
But I think it might
hardest
be the
schedule.
strongest conference schedule in the Big Ten. You
Oh,
play Purdue
I
twice,
probably, yeah.
you play Wisconsin twice, and you play Illinois twice. They're the three best teams in the Big Ten, and you play them all twice. I don't know how many other
Hmm.
teams can say that.
Yeah, it's It is the Big Ten.
Yep.
That's Pikel says it all the time. It's the toughest conference in America,
Yep.
and I don't think this year's really any different. I mean, they're definitely
Nope.
not the best. They're not top. I don't even know if they're top three anymore this year, at least. But they're
Top
still a
three
tough conference.
conferences.
Yeah, but when you have to
Yeah.
face the top tier of the conference, you're kind of screwed regardless.
Yeah. The Big 12 is definitely better. I'd say the Big East is better this year,
SEC
at
maybe.
least in terms of the tournament teams that'll make it.
SEC's got some dogs this year.
SEC is probably better.
Remember that
Um,
Mississippi State team? Yeah, they're pretty good.
yeah, the ACC is kind of a two bid league. Not that they'll only have two teams make it, but it's
Two,
just
yeah,
basically UNC and Duke. Yeah.
yep. The rest are kind of
Mm,
ass, and that's kind of how it is in football. Just swap out the top two teams.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's
Um,
crazy. I'm looking around. It's not the prettiest bracket this year. It's up for grabs. Anyone can
yep.
grab it this year. It's interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say I know people are still talking about the NCAA tournament. I'm looking at it right now. There's no shot. Like,
No, no, no. I
yeah.
don't think anybody's talking about it
I
on
mean, if you obviously have to
Rutgers
win
end.
out of it, probably. But even if you win out, I don't know if you can still make it. Like
I mean,
21,
if you
21.
in
Yeah, if you win
the
out,
hypothetical
technically,
scenario, you
yeah.
do win out, you make it because you win the Big Ten tournament. I think.
Oh, that yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I'm not counting that part, but yeah, if I'm saying if you win out the regular season, you're still what an ugly
If they win out
quad
the regular
bracket.
season, they make it because they're 21-10 at that point.
Yeah, one,
There's no way
two,
you're not.
three, four. Okay, it's four quad one games, so yeah, so you'd have 4 and 8 or
Yeah,
5 and 8 records. So yeah,
but still, that's not happening regardless.
well, you never know. Maybe a Seton Hall or not Seton Hall's quad one. Who was one that was close to slipping? Gotta hope Nebraska wins a couple more games so they can kind of push into that
Yeah,
quad one area.
yeah. Um,
That's it, really. The rest are all
yeah.
quad three losses, bro.
All right. Is there anything else you wanted to hit on? Any recruiting news? Anything? Rutgers lacrosse said they won their season opener today.
Ooh, a little sketchy.
Yeah,
14,
yeah.
14 12 to Lehigh.
14-12. They had an early injury to one of their better players.
Yes, kicking
I
the
don't know
balls.
what happened there, but they ended up winning 14-12. Rutgers is ranked, I believe, in the top 15 entering preseason.
Could be wrong. I
Um,
believe he was injured in the Nova scrimmage last weekend.
as
Villanova's.
well as today.
No, different person got injured in a Villanova scrimmage,
Okay.
and then someone else got injured today. So now they
Yep.
have two guys, I believe, down. I could be wrong
Yeah.
on that though. I'd have to ask Camden, who's our lacrosse guy, our new lacrosse guy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I know we had a bunch of visitors for the Penn State game. You hearing anything on the recruiting side that Rutgers fans should be aware of?
It's relatively quiet right now, as you can tell by lack of podcasts, in terms of recruiting. But no, they had hosted a couple visitors. A lot of guys are pretty hyped. Submitted a new future cast. People continue to spell my name wrong on the board. It's driving me nuts. I just saw it right now. I hate I don't know how people put a T in Richie, but whatever. Anyway, besides the point. No, nothing super new. We did put a new future cast for Nick Dorvillis out of Union High School. Just dropped a top five. I believe we have an article on that somewhere. Yeah, I mean, nothing super serious in terms of recruiting. That's probably the only name I'm keeping a close eye on. Rowan Byrne was there today. That's a little tidbit.
He was at
2025.
Michigan for a visit.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
he got to watch Rutgers beat Michigan. So you
yeah.
never
It's
know.
too bad he's
You
not
never know.
a Rutgers basketball recruit.
Yeah, I know. He's big enough. He's like 6'6", 6'7", something like that. He was at Rutgers on Thursday. I think it was actually better that he canceled his visit on Wednesday due to travel and made it to Thursday. So those of you saying like Greg's a genius, like I don't doubt Greg's a genius, but that's not the reason. Like Greg didn't
Yeah,
cancel
yeah,
it
yeah.
because of the game. He canceled it because of travel things, travel arrangements. But him going Thursday, he got a chance to spend time with Scott Malone. He told me he spent a lot of time with Holland Pierce. So it's always good to have those guys players actually spend time with recruits. Whereas if you go to the
Yep,
game on Wednesday, you see the players just walk out, and it's like, yikes.
yep.
Um, that happened a couple too many times recently. I feel like, but beating a dead horse there. Other than that, I think we've been pretty adamant. We saw exactly what we said we were going to see from Jeremiah Williams. Um, Great player, high IQ player, strong finisher at the rim, good defender, lengthy wing. it's crazy to me that people still didn't think he was going to play today. That's just
Yeah.
it's mind boggling. Like I
Yeah,
don't
because we
know.
were hearing rumblings on Wednesday that he might actually
Play
play. It
Wednesday.
turns out,
Yeah.
yeah, it turns out that they had just filed the. So the NCAA, for to go behind the curtain a little bit, the NCAA on Wednesday finally announced his suspension.
Hmm.
That it was started. It had started as of the 13th, which is when the West Virginia lawsuit happened. So the 15 games they were claiming would start then, which would put him eligible by February 18th. He ended up filing what's called a
Injunction.
temporary restraining
Oh
order,
yeah.
which basically brings it to a judge to decide whether or not he should be able to be eligible in the interim while the NCAA had a chance to respond. So the judge sided with Williams and said he should be able to play immediately until things are resolved. And most of the time, the NCAA just kind of takes the L there, and so that's what they did. So he is now eligible for the rest of the season. He has 2 years of eligibility after this year, correct?
Correct.
Because he played 2 years at Temple. He
One doesn't count.
transferred. He got what's that? One
2020.
didn't count.
Yeah, one doesn't count because
Yep.
COVID.
So he got hurt in the offseason, which is why he didn't play last year. And
Hmm.
then he transferred and is waiting on the NCAA to make a decision this year. So he had 3 years of
Hmm.
eligibility. So whether or not he played it all this year, he was still losing a year of eligibility, which is why you play him regardless because there's no point in sitting him. There's literally no point. Like you maybe can figure out a way to do the medical red shirt if you sit him the whole year, but he wants to play.
Hmm.
Guys don't want to be in college for 7 years because all these guys want to play in the NBA at some point. So the NBA isn't drafting guys who are 25 years old and have injury histories. You want to play as much as you possibly can, and we need him to play as much as he possibly can for next year. Everything at this point should be just kind of catered towards like as much cohesion and good vibes as you possibly can as a team
Hmm.
leading into next year because that is kind of where rubber meets the road for Rutgers basketball.
Yeah, it was a good win, great win, I should say. But again, temper expectations a bit. This is a shitty Michigan team, but it's a good win. First win in the
Yep.
Chrysler Center. It's not easy to win there. It's not easy to win anywhere on the road in the Big Ten, but good win, good comeback, good little run to end the game. Jeremiah Williams showed some flashes. Derek Simpson, if you can get him going like that, phenomenal.
Yep.
And it honestly opens up things for Cliff, as we saw as well.
Yeah. Yep.
So beautiful game. My only nitpick, I guess, would be I'm a little weirded out by the way they played Austin Williams or lack of playing Austin Williams because I thought he was solid
Yeah.
over those past couple games.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm a little surprised by that too. You only played I think 3 minutes.
yeah, very weird. I didn't understand that at all. But
Um, Another thing, Rutgers might just be like the Grim Reaper for Michigan coaches.
yeah,
Like
oh
you
yeah,
remember in 2014, the
that's
Michigan
close.
football loss ended up ending
Oh
or
wait,
effectively ending
oh yeah,
Brady Hoke's
that's the first
regime
one.
there.
Cool.
This might be the straw that breaks the camel's back for Juwan Howard's tenure at Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they probably would have let go of Jim Harbaugh after 2020 if Rutgers beat them in triple
That's why they're so
overtime,
close. Yeah,
which would have been a huge mistake, obviously. So the swinging door situation, or whatever it's called, given that game, it all came down to that Valentino Ambrosio field goal kick too in triple
yeah.
overtime from 45 yards.
Highest
Um,
field goal percentage in Tulane history.
I mean, I'm happy for him. I'm happy
Good.
that he went and found success elsewhere.
Yeah,
I
he's a
never,
good kid.
even for a guy like Cam Spencer, I never wish ill upon a guy who played at Rutgers, even
Biggest
if
shit
they
talker
did
I
kind
know.
of.
Love it.
I was
Love it.
so I still root for the guy. I was
Yeah.
watching the Seton Hall or not the Seton Hall, the St.
St. John's.
John's
See him waving like
UConn game earlier
bye
today.
bye.
I
Love it.
just when a guy like that is on your team, you just love watching it so much. But when you're playing him, it's just so hard not to hate the guy. And if you look at UConn fans on Twitter and on boards, they love Cam Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
Like he is probably the most loved UConn athlete of 2024, 2023, 2024. You can't say for last year, but
Yeah.
because obviously they won a title. But everybody at UConn seems to love the guy. So
Yeah. So I mean, Juwan Howard, you lost. You lost.
yeah,
That one, right? I was
It's
thinking, yeah.
Jover.
It's
Um,
Jover. It's Joe over. I don't know.
yeah, I
I'm
don't see
just,
any
I don't know.
questions in the chat, so I'm gonna call this a night. I appreciate everybody for hopping in. We'll put this in the podcast feed for later today. But for me and Richie, there's nothing else you wanted to hit on, right?
No.
All
I'm
right.
done. I'm gonna go take a. Actually, I'm gonna go watch the ending of this Georgia Tech North Carolina State game. So, got to see what happens there. It's an interesting one. They're down 10 right now. I like to watch a little Baden Dongo. Not doing so hot
Yeah,
right now, but
it's tough. It's tough watching him not be here.
yeah, kicking balls. But sorry to end it on that.
Yeah, no, it's all right. We got to win tonight. It's a big day for Rutgers. One first opening day win for lacrosse.
Ooh,
Big comeback win
women's
for Rutgers
basketball.
basketball. Women's basketball won its
12
first
game
game
losing
and
streak snapped.
win at Nebraska. It's a
Yeah.
great day to be a Rutgers fan, and I hope everybody else has a great night. But for me and Richie, this has been another edition of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.